Good evening, everyone. I'm José Luis Barbosa, and welcome to AES Sports Legacy Channel. Our program, Vivência do Esporte, has in mind to inform, to debate, to promote, and to entertain. This program has a talk show format that talks about relevant subjects such as education, sport, culture, politics, economics, and so on. To maintain the quality of the show on this evening, we have on the backstage given us a great technical support to give all the information and taking questions from our audience is Cristiano Machado and Eder Mota. To present this show with me this evening is Adriano de Souza and Edmo de Souza. As always, with the idea of offering the best, this evening would not be different. This evening, you have an honor to receive on our AES Sport Legacy channel to participate on Vivência do Esporte program. You have an outstanding professional, a fantastic human being who has made a difference in the way people see life. It is with a great satisfaction that I introduce to you all Dr. Geneva Craig. Dr. Craig, welcome. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for the invitation to share with me.
Before we start, I would like to remind you to support our channel. Please subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, give the like. That is very important to us. Share on in our social media network. Invite your friends, family, boyfriend, girlfriend, coach, everyone, because you still have time today to watch this wonderful show. So good evening again, Dr. Craig. How are you doing?
I am feeling very well, very happy, and very special.
Okay. It is a great satisfaction to have you here with us, Dr. Craig. Feel like you're home. Feel free to talk, to say what you think, okay? Just relax and speak your mind for us. We appreciate that.
Will do. Are you ready for me to speak?
Okay. All right. Now, one more time, good evening. You're going to start to have a sequence of questions here. You're going to start with you, and I'm going to do the first question, okay? Good evening one more time for to be here. Faced with an extraordinary life experience with a unique sensitivity that has contributed significantly to make a difference in American society and in the world. To start our chat, we would like to know who is Dr. Geneva Craig.
Dr. Geneva Craig is a woman now who's very mature. But many years ago, when she was born in the late 40s, she was a happy little girl who felt loved, cared about, and thought the world was wonderful. She was born down in a place called Selma, Alabama. Selma, Alabama is called the Deep South in America. And the Deep South is where many blacks came to America as slaves. And I am a descendant of black slaves. Now, as a little girl, I told you I was happy, loved, and I thought the world was fine. I had my mama, my big mama, that's grandmother, my real mother, Ella,
Mm-hmm.
my aunts and uncles, and lots of cousins. The world was great. But at last I grew up. And grew up means I became 7 years old, 8 years old, 12 years old, and I'm noticing the world around me has changed. There were signs that said colored and white. And one of these things that really honed in to me the difference in colored and white was the water fountain, the water cooler. Imagine a child going into a store, and back then it was called Crest, and they had this big box that was copper toned, had a pearl handle,
Mm-hmm.
and turn that handle, the water would spout out, and oh my God, the water looked like a rainbow coming out of that spout. The most fascinating thing about that cooler was that it hummed. The box would go hum, and my eyes would get big, and I'd look, and next to it were those little white pointed cups that you catch the water in. Now come on, to a kid, a child, that had to be the best tasting water in the whole wide world. The only difference was the sign above it said white. I had to look for the sign that said colored. And there was that little old rusted sink when you turn the knob and go quick, 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 and the water didn't come out like a rainbow arching. The water came out guzzling. And there were no white pointed cups to capture the water so you could drink it. You had to cup your hands and slurp the water. Oh, my world was not as perfect as I thought. That was the beginning that I really remember was the difference. The water cooler and the rusted sink and the colored and white sign. So as I became older and became a teenager, I became very angry. Very angry.
Can imagine.
I
So
can.
there was something that needed to be done, and I was willing to do whatever it took because I am just as deserving to drink out of that box cooler, the box that hum, just as anyone else.
Whoa.
Stop me anytime and ask the next question.
That's
Well,
great.
That's
well,
awesome.
now, well, Dr. Craig, I know you spoke a little bit about your childhood. I know, and you said that you raised and born in Selma, Alabama. But I would like you to know if you can share with us um, how your childhood was like there at that time.
And that's what I was trying to display. Happy, joyous, family, mother, father, cousins, aunts, uncles, friends. You know, we go to church together, we had school. They were happy times, and I felt safe.
Yeah.
But as I grew older and started noticing the world around me, okay,
You start to see the truth, right?
the
The
truth,
real world.
and that water cooler really brought it home and made me started paying more attention. The Dairy Queen. I call it the Dairy Queen because that's where you go to get ice cream.
Mhm.
You'd stand in the hot sun waiting for somebody to come to the window to serve you ice cream. But yet all the white families could go in the cool building and enjoy the refreshments. And depending on who came to the window, you might get, well, what do you want? And you're paying the same amount of money for the treat as the people who are allowed to go into the building. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I could go on and on with examples.
Mm-hmm.
Colored signs, white signs.
Yeah.
Privilege for the white, not privileged at all for the colored. You're hungry. You go to a restaurant, you can't go to the front door. You have to go to the back door.
Oh my gosh.
But you're paying the same price. So as I grew older, I noticed more and I became angrier.
Okay. I bet you. I bet you. I can't tell. Go ahead, Andrew. I
Well,
can't.
well, Dr. Craig,
Hmm?
you became angry a little bit more in your teenager.
Hmm.
But growing up in this situation, we learned with all the fellows that stayed with here and this show. Sport has always helped many people in US, especially the black people, to get a good education. Did you play any sports when you went to high school in Selma?
No, I had to leave school early to help raise my younger siblings and provide income. Now, while I was in school, I played softball. I was very good at it.
Wow.
Wow,
I was
Softball.
very good at it.
softball.
Yes. But my mother was ill. She died at the age of 47, but
Mm-hmm.
she had been ill for many years before that.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am, noticing the world. My mother gave the message consistently, consistently. Go to school. Get a good education. Education is the way. Education is the key. Go to school. And she repeated that message as often as she could. And she'd get up and she'd make sure that we had something to nibble on in the morning so that we could go to school and be not be hungry and could think. Now my mother saw something in me and she used to say, "You're the one." Now I didn't know what she meant. Yeah, you're the one. Now, as I got older, I knew what she meant. You're the one to finish raising
Got it.
children. You're the one with the strength to support and guide, nurture these children.
So
And
you still a teenager this time. You still in the teenager years.
in my teenage years, yes.
So you are helping raise your own brothers and sisters.
Mhm. My
So
young.
that's a big challenge.
Oh, yes, it is. It's a big responsibility. But
Yes.
before I had to take care of them, the anger, Doc, remember the civil rights
Yep.
movement had started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So here I am, angry, want to do something, got a lot of friends and cousins who are angry also. And we're trying to figure out what we could do to make these white people give us respect and recognize, that we were deserving. Well, can you imagine a whole host of young, black, angry teenagers out there in the streets demanding their rights, demanding to be treated with respect? We were kids. We were kids, you're teenagers, you don't know, but you know you want to do something. And that's where I credit Dr. Martin Luther King, because the civil rights movement was starting up. And Selma was the ripe, RIPE, place for them to really push for the voting rights of the blacks in the South. They chose Selma. Well, they started having the mass meetings. Mass meetings where you go and you listen to the people who were the disciples of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And they had a plan and they could guide us. So I made sure I went to the mass meetings to hear the messages and to learn the ways. And they also took time to promote what my mother had already told me. Go to school, get a good education, because education is the way and it is the key. So I listened intently and I joined the mass movement. That meant marching, singing, going to jail. And I knew that I felt that I was not going to live through it. I'm going to be honest. I really did not think I would live through the civil rights movement. But I committed my life to it. My mother begged and pleaded me not to go to those meetings. She begged and pleaded me not to march. But I look at her and I go, Mama, what good is getting a good education when you really can't put it to good use?
That's correct.
We've got these people that are holding us and controlling us, and they're only going to let so many progress. This is the kind of conversation I had with my mother, me as a teenager, 14, 15 years old. I'm thinking through. I said, I don't want to live like you and Big Mama, my grandmother.
Well, now we can understand why she said that you are the one. She knew. She knew what she got.
She was right.
Dr. Craig,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to do the next question, but you kind of answered some part of the question. One was the challenge that you faced when you growing up in Alabama, specifically during your teenage years. You just answered that. But I'd like to know what was there a specific event at that time that caused you to become an activist and a social justice to be an activist? Which is the moment that give you that I gotta be in this way? What, do
It
you know
wasn't
that?
just a moment. It was an accumulation of things. It was that
Okay.
awareness of the how society treated you.
Mm-hmm.
It was that anger that said,
Mm-hmm.
I've got to do something. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to live like this. It was the awareness of looking at these old black people who are going to work and they're tired. They are tired and they don't have the resources to take a vacation. Okay? Somebody's got to work and pay the bills. I listened at the mass meetings, and that as a teenager, I learned that we had to pay taxes. Okay? Taxes. And they weren't taxes for black people and taxes for white people. We were paying the same taxes, and taxes were to provide certain services for the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't getting the same services. So here we are working hard. There's no way to get ahead because you're paying the same taxes as the whites, but you're not getting the service.
No
And,
benefits. Not the
and
same benefits.
oh, I'm a kid with all of this. I would write things down and look through it. I'd ask people, grown people, and I'll be amazed at the responses I would get. And the most response I got was, hush up, child. Hush
Wow.
up. Don't let them white folks hear you talk like that. Hush up.
Wow. It's really.
And I later on, I understood they were trying to save my life, to not so that I wouldn't be pointed out as a troublemaker.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm so happy Dr. King chose Selma, because that anger and frustration. I have the book that Dr. King wrote, Why We Can't Wait. This book outlines the things that I heard during the mass meetings and during the sessions where we would sit with his, I call them his disciples, who would tell us, they preach about education and all of this stuff, and we'd have those earnest conversations. The movement was faltering. It was faltering. Older people were scared. The ones that would tell me to hush up, they were scared. They were scared because their homes, everything was controlled by the white society. And they didn't want to lose. So I could not listen to them anymore. Change had to come. How do we get this change? And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and all of his disciples, they had answers. And they had a way. And this man had studied about nonviolence, the approach. Again, in his book, he writes what we were taught. You have three choices or three types. You have, he called them the Negro, who was complacent, who just took it and said, we got to make the best of what it is with what we got. Then you had that level of Negro who were middle, in the middle. Some of them had become educated because they were our teachers, they were our ministers, were dentists, and a couple were maybe physicians, medical doctors. And they were the ones who often would say, oh, well, I got mine. Okay, they've made it, so to speak. And they're looking at the others like, well, I've got it, and why can't you? They're not really seeing. They've lost that sensitivity to the poor and those who are struggling. Then you have the third group of Negroes. That's where I felt angry.
The young one and angry.
Who wanted change, who wanted societal change, more on equality. But I didn't know that much about equity then. Equity and equality, they're two different things. But we were striving for equality. That's what we were going for. And Dr. King said, if you did not work with the angry group, then mass violence would occur. And that could include massacres.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
And that would be the worst thing that could happen on the American soil. Civil unrest with the angry blacks.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
This is
Wow.
wow. It's really hard to hear those kind of things, because we all black, and we know how hard it is to live in this world. I don't know, but my parents probably know what they passed. But anyway, Dr. Craig, how old were you when you became active in the civil rights moment? And can you describe what your activism in the civil rights movement looked like?
Okay, I was a teenager, and I don't normally tell my age, but let's just say She was 14, going on 15.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Bloody
No, no, that's funny.
When Bloody Sunday came, and I don't know if you've heard about Bloody Sunday, but you can read about it.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I had gone to jail many times before Bloody Sunday
Really?
started.
Oh, really?
Because we had the demonstrations going on and the marching going on, the boycotting going on. We had all of this stuff going on.
Mhm.
Meet down, because remember, we're trying to get the right to vote.
Right, yes. But
People marches and they arrest us and put us in jail. The thing is, when they got you in jail, they want to break your spirit. They're not just letting you sit in jail and sing and they feed you and all of that. Oh no. They put you in jail. They have all kinds of intimidation tactics. They had this thing called a cattle prodder. Anybody ever prod cattle? Electrical shocks.
yes.
And they would use those on us. Just willy-nilly, boop, boop, boop. Okay, those don't feel good. Believe me, you go down to your knees when you get shot with a cattle prod. So
Mhm.
intimidation tactics were being done in the jail. My mother knew this, and my mother begged and pleaded, don't go, don't go. I was going. Now, when Bloody Sunday came, we were going to do the march to Montgomery.
Okay.
I had my 13-year-old brother with me who said, we're at Brown Chapel, we're going through the training, the teaching, and you cannot show that you want to fight, you can't show anger. They push us, they hit us, they do all kinds of things, and you could not show anger. And so I figured, oh, he's not gonna pass. I said, boy, sure, if you pass it, you can go with me. Well, Lord, the child passed. Then I was like, oh. Now my mama, she know I'm a rebel. And now this rebel finna take her only male child. That was her heart. He was her heart. But he looked at me like, you told me if I pass, you'll take me. And I said, what could I do? So we lined up and we started the march. And we got to the base of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. My brother and I had just stepped off that bridge and maybe gone about 10 steps when they lit into us with that tear gas and billy clubs, men on
God.
horses with whips. I mean, they lit into us like you wouldn't believe. I grabbed my brother and I took him down by the river bank and I had him lay down because the tear gas was so strong, we had thrown up everything we had eaten while at the church.
Oh my
And
God.
we were retching dry heaves. Now, if you've ever had the nausea and the vomiting, and then you get to the point there's nothing left in your gut but your gut to come up, that's where we were. So I got him to the edge and I said, lay down so we could breathe fresh air.
Mhm.
I said to my brother, I said, we got to get back to the church. We got to get back to Brown Chapel. And all he could say when he could talk was, the blood, the blood, Geneva, the blood.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at him. I didn't know the boy was in shock. I wasn't a nurse then. And so I said, come on with me. We got to go. I took my brother, by the hand. I said, when we get up, I want you to run as fast as you can. And if one of the men on the horses get up to us and he is about to hit you, tug on me, give me a signal or something, and let me know so I can take the blow. I have got to keep you safe. His name was Vernon. Vernon, I have to keep you safe. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh Lord, if anything happened to this boy, my mama gonna kill me. My mama gonna kill me. I gotta get this boy back to the church. But he was right. There was blood everywhere. Blood. They were beating people like you have never known people to be beat.
Mhm.
The men on the horses, they, when we got back to Brown Chapel, one of the guys riding a horse tried to get into the church, riding on the horse up the steps. I'm telling you, Bloody Sunday was as accurately described as Bloody Sunday.
Well,
Wow.
I did not stop.
Wow.
this is
Oh,
important
that's
because we had a chance to watch a video. Probably you, I don't know if you met that lady, Amelia Robinson, that she was shocked by the police state of Selma at that time, and she described exactly you were saying to us, but you were a teenager at that time. It's much more violence because in adults they have some sense how to protect themselves or something like that.
Well, they told us try to protect your head. But I had to get that boy back to the church because I knew my mother had gotten off of her sick bed and was going to beat that.
yeah.
And she was. And
Okay.
but
All
I got
right.
him back safe. But that
Okay.
wasn't the end. I didn't take him the next time that I marched because we went again, and Dr. King turned us around. We just knelt and prayed. And then the third time, hey, on our way. And we'd sing, pick 'em up and let 'em down. Talking about your feet. All the way from Selma Town. Pick
Well,
'em up and let 'em down. To the capital we're bound. Oh, we were marching and we were singing.
There you go.
well,
Uh,
and with your very beautiful gospel voice,
okay.
a so southern voice.
All right.
Oh
Dr. Craig.
man, we'd sing, but we'd be in when we'd be in jail. And you guys know about the Birmingham Children's March where they filled the jails. There were thousands and thousands. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the same thing was
Birmingham Chuck. Yeah.
found in the different counties.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of Dallas County, and we went to fill the jails. They took us to Cahaba, which is a prison, put us on buses because they couldn't, they had no more room in Selma, so they had to take us somewhere. And we went there, and we were there for like 5 days. They were doing everything. They would come in the middle of the night and push the walls, and they'd have the billy clubs, and they'd be beating us and stabbing us with those cattle prodders, shocking us. And always there'd be somebody that starts to cry. They started to cry. And we bring out with those southern voices, all in silence, bound in jail. Got no money for to go there, bail. Keep your eye on the prize. Hold on. And we sing those songs. We sing, Oh Freedom. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. And I believe and I sang with all my heart and soul. I believe.
That's beautiful.
Wow,
That's beautiful.
so
Dr.
awesome.
Craig, I'm totally very, very like emotional, very touched by your history. I mean, very touched. Now, I have
Yes.
a question for you here, which
Mhm.
is, Dr. Craig, there are many things that impact us as youth. You know, when they're very young, there's many things that impact you. Can you share with us, to our audience, you know, uh, what was the words that Martin Luther King spoke to you on the first time you met him? You remember that? Because I can't imagine, because you have him like an idol, someone that is,
I
guide you.
cannot tell you the very first words, but I can tell you one word.
Hmm.
that really resounded with me. Dr. King, when we would be at the meetings, the youth would usually sit over in a corner and on the floor. We let the adults have the chairs and the seats.
Okay.
Well, some friends and I had come up with this plan about boycotting. Why are these black people still going to these stores and we're boycotting? So we had devised a little plan where we take their purchases, teach them a lesson. Everybody needs to suffer a consequence. All right. Now remember, now we're teenagers. So got this plan developed. You snatch their purchase, throw it in the nearest dumpster, and keep going. Go home, but don't come back downtown. Dr. King was in town, and he came over to the group, and he said he needed some help from us because he'd heard that there were some youth who were going, not in alliance with the movement. And what it was, we ask people not to shop in the stores, but we don't give them the consequences like the youth do it. And he asked if we could stop that, help put an end to it. Well, I didn't pay attention. I didn't know. I'm listening at him and so forth, and I'm like thinking, everybody was looking at me, and so he came closer to me. And I said to him, and I'm thinking, and I'm going, but you're saying that that's not helping the movement, it's hurting the movement? And because I'm a verbal kid, I can talk. And he goes, it's hurting the movement. That's not our way. The way is nonviolence. I said, but everybody should suffer consequence or something. He goes, that the choice is on them to support us or not. And he goes, can you help? And I said, oh, yeah, we can help. We'll find them. We'll tell them to stop. That is hurting the movement. Dr. King doesn't want it going on. Well, later on, he saw me out at Brown Chapel doing the thing, and he goes, you there. And I said, yeah, Craig. He goes, yeah, come. He says, you're a smart young lady. You're an intelligent young lady. He says, you could become and you could do whatever it is that you want to do in life. He goes, but there's one thing you must learn. Oh, I was ready. I was ready to hear what I needed to learn. He said, patience. And I looked, I'm listening, I'm waiting on the other stuff, And then he turned around and he started talking with the guys that he was talking. And I said, excuse me, Dr. King. He turned around. I said, patience? He said, yes, patience. And that was it. I walked away. I was so upset with that man. But, he was right. That was what I needed to learn, was patience. It took patience to go to a predominantly white school, to work in a predominantly white job. It took patience to swallow and not say the first thing that popped up in your brain and wanted to spill out of your mouth.
Yeah, but
it took patience when that man at George C. Wallace State Junior College would fail me with English Lit because I found out from the white kids he'd never passed a black. Well, I was determined to be the first. And I told him with a smile and with caring, I love the way you teach. I am learning so much from your class. And if it takes me 20 times to be able to learn all it is that you have to teach me, to be able to pass this class, I'm going to take English literature 20 times. And I'm only going to take it from you. And when he saw me in his class the second time and back again the third time, he passed me. Patience.
Wow.
Okay, so
Maybe we need a little bit more patience because this world is getting insane without patience.
Well,
yeah, but
he
how
didn't
was
say to be like the first Negroes who are trying to just, hover down and just make do with whatever they got. Okay. And say, I'm waiting on change. He didn't mean it like that because change. We cannot wait. We cannot wait.
yeah, it's a very difficult situation because how to deal with because you have that we not wait. Why we
Why we can't?
and also you're young and anger. How to deal with all those situations and learn to be patient.
And learn. That's it. You understand that frustration when he said that to me. And I
Yeah.
was like, hey, I walked away like, oh, he's not on a pedestal anymore. He's just not on a pedestal.
He's not my hero anymore. He must, hey, Dr. Craig, he must be kidding me.
I know, think about it. As you tell a teenager, a 15-year-old, something like that. Okay. Oh, and you're ready to go out there and make changes in the world. Come on. But the patient was, things are not going to change. I learned because I was an avid reader. People say, but it's the law. And I look at them and I say, a law does not make it right. And when you're having a dialogue with Caucasians about the law, I go, it was against the law to teach blacks in America to read and write. It was against the law right here in the state of Oregon for a black person to be out after sundown. It was against, and I could go down the list. A law does not make it right. People use laws for their own interests. And the way we in America get to have a voice in those laws is to get up and vote. And we vote responsibly. We vote for the people that we have talked to and told them, I expect this from you. You want my vote? And if any of you have looked at the last major election that occurred in the United States, black people made a difference.
I know.
They turned Georgia from one color to the other.
You're right.
Okay.
And Stacey Abrams was one of very important person in this process.
Yes.
Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
It takes strong women like you, Stacey Abrams, and so many others here did, Rosa Parks, to make the change, to face the hard times and really
And educate and nurture our children and teach them. My home was full. My home, after I left Alabama, Selma, I moved to Alaska and I made Alaska home. And people go, oh my God, all the way from Alabama. I said, I kept the ALA. Okay? So I go to
Alabama, Alaska. Okay, got you.
ALA,
Yeah.
ALA. And so I have one child that's living, a son. He was born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska. And my child would say, I'm supposed to be an only child. I worked with youth in Selma when I was there. and I worked with youth in Alaska. And I worked with them to help them look at how to plan out their lives and to not be so emotional and reactive. I had one kid, I had dropped off a group at the movie theater. He was late getting to the house, so he wanted to go. He really wanted to go, so I said, I'm taking you. And he was the kid that I really worried about because he had a short temper. And I said, you get the ticket and you go straight into the movie. Don't lollygag in the lobby. Well, he didn't do what he's supposed to do. The girls were in the lobby, so he wanted to hang with the girls. We're talking 16 years old, okay? He's hanging with the girls, and the assistant manager at the movie theater said, did you pay to come in here? I bet you didn't pay. You know, that kind of boy, he's pulling out a ticket. Oh, you probably picked that up off the floor. I get the story. This is the story I get later. And then he's just, this is how y'all are. Y'all are. And da-da-da. And this kid's temper is going off. Well, two of my boys worked at the movie theater. They saw what was going on. They rushed over and they grabbed him and they said, remember what Mama G taught us. Remember what Mama G said. Because this boy was getting ready to just light into that guy. So the manager, who happens to be a woman, comes out and she's trying to figure out what's going on. And all the kids are telling the same story about the assistant manager picking on this kid. Now, the manager knows he was wrong and he was instigating something. So she gives everybody treats, free movie passes, and food treats. So when the kids, I pick them up and we get them home, they got all these treats, and I'm going, what's going on? Where'd y'all get all that money to buy all this stuff? And they were telling me, oh, this, she gave it to us. And I said, why? And they told me the story.
Okay.
I said, now, if you had hit that man, what would have happened?
Go to jail.
Right. And who started it, the whole thing? The man.
It was the man. But he
Right.
going to jail, the man's going to be right, and he was going to be wrong.
Yes. And I said, if he had put his hands on you first and you hadn't responded by knocking him out, but called the police and called assault, I said, that's what the woman manager recognized. There were too many witnesses.
For sure.
So she
Absolutely.
had.
Got it. All right.
And these are the things that I would teach the kids. You know, why do they follow us in the stores? I said, police were not invented to protect us. They were invented to keep us in check.
You're right.
I said, we've got to get more black policemen, lawyers, judges. We've got to get more, and we've got to have more say in the laws that are written. I said, and that's where that patience comes in, because it takes time to go to school and learn all of this stuff. And it takes even more energy to try to bring somebody else along with you so that they can benefit from a better education and better income and a better life. And every child I have ever worked with, an adult, my thing to them is, I don't want you to pay me back. I want you to bring somebody else up. Be their cheerleader. Give them a few dollars when they need it. Pay for a course so that they can become more educated. That's how we help promote each and every one of us. We need us in high numbers to be on equal footing. So don't forget where you came from. Do not ever forget where you come from and how life was for you before it became better.
Well, Dr. Craig, how old were you when you were involved when the Bloody Sunday, given that the 15th Amendment was about voters' right? How aware of that amendment were you when you marched in the Bloody Sunday event?
Okay. I was aware because we had been taught that. That was the purpose of the mass meetings. That was the purpose of the youth meetings when they would meet with the youth to tell us about the amendments, about our rights.
The reason of the meetings was just to put everybody aware about the rights.
Not just the rights. You got to remember now, you're
Yeah.
talking about a movement that's going to change society. So the mass meetings were about educating people about all aspects, how to be nonviolent, how to go forward with a complaint. I mean, the meetings taught life, how we need to go about making change, making our lives, our world a better place, blacks included. So, I mean, why would you have a push for voting and you haven't educated the people about why it's important? Why would you put us out there on the front lines to get beat and go to jail and suffer consequences? Once you get in jail, you never knew what they were going to do. Why would you do that and not tell them how come? See, you had to tell them why the laws were created. You had to tell them where the law is is not equitable and equal apply
Yes.
to both races. See, these mass meetings, that's not a place, that's a place where you catch the volume, the bulk of individuals and help
But
open their eyes.
sorry to interrupt you, but every time that we talking about races, we are all human beings. We have different colors. Maybe this is not the next step we need to care about how to treat each other as a brothers and sisters, no matter what colors we have.
And Dr. King addressed that. Remember, he talked about his
Yes,
and
yes, exactly. Because at the same time, we remember we had an opportunity to study a little bit. Because at the same time, we have Dr. King teaching this way. In the other hand, what we had Malcolm X teaching the other hand.
just remember the three groups. Now,
Exactly,
what group
exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you. The three group, you're right.
Three
he fell
groups.
into the angry group, and he
But
talked about the white devils.
right. And the problem is to motivate the third group is much more easy than the other group to educate, to calm down, to put their knowledge, to keep their in balance. I don't know why. It's so hard.
Anger,
Exact.
anger.
But
They,
anger is too easy to motivate. I
and
get.
he knew that if we responded with anger, which generates violence, think about that war on the land where blacks and whites are just fighting. Number one, back then, not that many blacks had weapons.
Mm-hmm. It
Today,
was.
today, if that was to happen today, we'd wipe each other out. We would, because blacks have just as many weapons as the whites today. Back then,
No.
we did not have many weapons at all. Okay? So
Yes.
stop and think. Anger and violence can go hand in hand,
Mhm.
but anger that's channeled in a methodical way can generate change also.
All right. I
That's
agree with you on that.
Completely right.
All
Yeah, I
right.
agree with you.
All right, Adriano. You next.
Oh man, let's go. Dr. Craig,
yeah.
according to our research, you are a PhD in health service. Here are two questions for you.
Okay.
When did you decide to become a nurse? And what inspired you to continue in this area?
Okay. Number one, I was a little girl about 8 years old when my aunt, we call her auntie, her name was Louise, gave me a nurse's kit. And I knew what was in that kit. It had the little nurse's cap, the stethoscope, all of that stuff. Man, she gave me that nurse's kit. I was in that kit. The hat went flying, the stethoscope went flying, the thermometer went flying, the bandages and scissors went flying, and then I found that syringe. Oh, everybody was going to get a shot. And then I knew I was going to be a nurse.
Wow.
And I took that little play syringe and I gave everybody shots. I was just wiping, sticking, stick. Oh, that 8 years old, I'm going to be a nurse. That treat to being a nurse was not easy because part of that was trying to pass that English literature course with that man.
Mhm.
I didn't know when I took the class that he was as black. I'm working all day. I work day and night. And I take an hour out of my sleep time to go to the class, to go to the junior college to get a class. And then when I leave there, I'd go back and sleep a couple more hours, and then my day will start all over again. In order to accomplish everything that I had written out in a plan, I had to give up sleep. I had to give up sleep because 24 hours just wasn't enough. I had the
Yes.
kids to take care of. I had to work a job to keep a roof over our head.
Mhm.
So it was not easy. I was often the only black or the other black in those classes.
Wow.
And I started out, I got my little nurse's aid certificate. From there, I got my licensed practical nurse, which is LPN in California, LVN. And then the program started where if you had that, you could go to school 1 year and get your RN. And I was fortunate enough to get into that program. And I got my associate's degree in nursing.
Mhm.
And I was, not was, I am an excellent nurse. When I was an LPN, the RNs who used to come through Selma, Alabama, through Craig Air Force Base, that was an active base in Selma, they would all say to me, "Boy, you'd make an excellent RN. You have great assessment skills, great technical skills. Oh my goodness!" And these were nurses who were lived all over the world because of their being in the Air Force with their spouses. So, I mean, I knew I had mapped it out, but it was not easy. It was not easy. I met many challenges on my trek to getting a bachelor's degree. Master's was okay. Distance learning was coming into being. Walden University, WALDE, is the school that I had chosen to earn my PhD from. It was the oldest distance learning program in the country.
Wow.
And I waited until they got their accreditation. And once they got their accreditation in 1996, I was ready. I joined the Walden family. Now I'm working full time and I'm taking my courses. And I had planned it. I knew it was going to take years. And it took me the full 7 years, but I stuck with it.
So, The lesson from Martin Luther King taught you patient. You stay patient and you got it.
And he also taught, reinforced what my mother had always said: education is the way.
That's right.
Education is
That's
the
right.
key. Go to school, get a good education.
Yes, you received all the basis from your family and Dr. King to move forward and be where you are right now. And stay with us, sharing this. That is the most important thing.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ed.
Yes, Dr. Craig, you mentioned that you were a young woman who started to feel angry when you understood how the social system that segregates humanity worked and still works. Through all of your experiences, could you tell us how anger and fear can harm us in the choice we make, and what are some possible consequences of that?
Anger, I think we've covered. Anger will lead you to violence. And you have to look at who has the upper hand. Anger can cloudy your thoughts, and you make poor choices.
Mhm.
You want to manage your anger. If you learn yourself, and this is something my big mama said, child, you better know yourself better than anybody else. Because if you don't know yourself, folk gonna come into your life and they gonna tell you who you are, how you are, what you ought to do, what you ought not to do. And if you don't know yourself, you gonna believe them. And those folks don't have your best interest at heart. And I have encountered people who have told me, oh, Geneva, you're this and you're that. And I look at them, I say to Geneva, now they don't know you. They don't know you. Don't listen to that. I have learned to smile and I practice. Thank you for your advice. Thank you for your input. I'll take that into consideration and walk away. And I take that consideration and I dump it in the first trash can I come to. Okay? Because I know me better than anybody else.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to become your puppet on a string. I have had people try that angry black woman thing. Oh, she's just an angry black woman. And I have to laugh because people who know me, they go, that's not Geneva. You can't trigger her like that. No.
Well, I think sometimes people confuse when you have a lot of knowledge. When you have a lot of knowledge and you are able to do question in the right way, people think that you're anger or we are, something else. It's just like you understand when you challenge them. Yep,
It's jealousy. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Envy and jealousy are the greatest of sins.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
because they think that black people
Are dumb.
can be smart, can be intelligent. That's why
And
when
and I have encountered that. I have
yeah, when they
encountered.
face a situation that they are in front of a real intelligent person and is smart and know more than they know, wow, they're in trouble.
Well, we had
You know what I do? I try not to put people on the spot. And I try really hard. But there are some who are, you didn't tell me you were Dr. Craig. You didn't tell me. And I go, well, what difference would that have made in your approach? Should that have been a difference?
Well, the title that you bring for some people, it's the most important thing for them than your only person.
Hmm?
That's
And
I,
that's
re-
the person I
I,
in my
I
life.
remember I remember the history that Mahatma Gandhi was invited for a big dinner to stay with all the politicians, all the high society. And the guy who said, "Hey, Mr. Mahatma Gandhi, you never can forget your smoking. To use a dress, the black dress, the tie." And he said, "Okay." And three times this gentleman sent him the same history. "Oh, don't forget your black tie." Okay, in the final day for the dinner, he sent all of the clothes and never showed up to say to people, "Oh, the most important thing that you want is the black tie,
Like,
not me."
uh-huh.
yeah,
And
that's a
I
good
love,
story.
you got to remember, Dr. King studied under him.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
yes, it's the same school.
Yeah. 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 Okay, Dr. Craig.
Yes,
Um, to you, volunteering is very important part of your life. I'm correct?
voting,
To volunteer.
volunteer work. Oh,
Ye-
yes.
yes.
I,
Okay. The
since I was
question
a
that
child.
okay, the question you have for you is what are the reasons that cause you or make you to become a volunteer?
Well, my upbringing. I grew up, and the kids love it when I tell them this.
Mm.
I grew up P-O. And the kids go, Po. I said, we couldn't afford the other O-R to go to make poor. We
Hmm.
Po. And when you live in a community where everybody is Po, who's going to take care of the elderly? Who's going
Hmm.
to take care of the sick?
Hmm.
Who's going to feed the children when the parents are working all day? The rest of us. That's volunteer work. If you were sick, my mama would have us. And I was a little girl, but I could wield a broom. And my mama would have me sweep in their house. And as I got
Wow.
older, I could wash their clothes. And we'd have tubs, and we'd wash their clothes, wash the linen, hang them out on the line to dry. We didn't get paid for that. That's called the cliche word community service. Okay.
So your mama
But
taught you
and
in
we
the
cook
80 age, help
as
the poor
little
people,
something.
help each other, do the community service that you call today.
That's what it's called today, community service. We were doing that as children.
Wow.
Somebody's sick, need food, you get the food, take it to them. The house is dirty. You can't have good health living in dirt, filth. Need clean
Yes.
clothing, need clean sheets. We'd wash. We had rub boards. You get on that rub board and you rub those things, get the stains out. Oh yeah. All my life, you have to make where you live better. And that means you need to know what's going on in your community and then you get involved. So, everywhere
Wow.
I have lived, I have done community service. Everywhere. To make
Well,
where I live better.
Well, I have a
do,
very
do you think that this kind of training with the teaching from Dr. King to be patient and what your mama also teaching you is the base that made you as you are right now, so clever, so lovely, and so
Kind,
consciousness with
kind.
and kind with all this situation? Because it's so brilliant what you were saying, because it's tough to learn how to clean up all the dirty parts from the others, no make any money, because we are all the time putting money ahead. And what we have in this situation, just serve, to serve each other, our brothers and sisters, is it.
Dr. King, he spoke to that also. He surely did.
Oh,
He just put that period behind a lot of the things my mother had already said, time and time again. But it goes back to it takes a village to raise a child. My son even said to me one day, I said, baby, mama's been telling you that all the time. You know what, my child, he looked at me and he says, Mom, now that's your job. Okay, my job is to tell him he's smart. My job is to tell him what he can do and how what he can become. That was my job because I was his mama.
Hmm.
But when somebody else who I had not even talked to came and told him the same thing, he set it up and paid attention.
Yeah.
So it takes a village. Yeah.
Because
well,
um, Dr. Craig,
Hmm.
you know Brazil or Africa have the largest black population in the whole world. But unfortunately, the way slavery and violence and brutality in Brazil as well, I think many our families, many people, many black people in Brazil don't have this ideal or this conscience of justice said. I think that's something that you want to help us through that example to get that pace and go to Brazilian black people there and say, you know what? That's why you need to do with us. Community service, help one another right here. I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for that because that brings me a thought. Because I think this is something that you need to make that in a larger scale. Get more people involved because Brazilian people need to step up. And since you are majority of the people there, you don't have a lot of people in Congress. You don't have a lot of people in power. You don't have a lot of people in many positions because exactly like that. I think you need to do this type of work, teaching, helping another, and be able to everybody else to grow up together and be strong. Like you said, patient education, like your mama said, and I think this is the key. I want to thank you for that. I want to just bring that up because this is fantastic.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we had a kind of a different freedom process. That's why I think when we decide to start with this channel, the main idea was to give the people information. I think information and learning is I think I would say that is one of the most important thing, because without information, without a good education, we can go anywhere.
And
So,
you're controlled.
yep.
You are controlled because you know
Yes.
better.
Yeah, because if you don't have acknowledgement, other people will control you.
You are controlled. That is true.
Yeah.
I
But I
don't
have
want
a
to be controlled. I don't want to
yeah,
be controlled.
yeah, but I have a very good question for you.
Okay.
Dr. Craig, do you believe that race plays a factor in violence against women? If so, can you share your thoughts about this issue? And in your opinion, what can be done to end this violence against black women?
I'm going to say this. I cannot say that race is the key factor in
Okay,
violence against women
okay,
Mhm.
because you have to look at the different cultures.
got it.
Okay? Now, it may be where you are. I was born and raised in the South. Black women, of course, could have been affected by a lot of whites. You had to be very careful if there were white men out there and nobody else around. You could be taken advantage of.
Got it.
But I was also married in Alabama at a young age, and my husband started to drink alcohol, and he wanted to become abusive. Now, you guys got a little bit of knowledge about me. You see me now. Do you think I'm going to take abuse very easily? Yeah. You know,
No.
no way. But he tried, bless his heart. Um, when I look at women in abusive situations, you really have to look at the culture around it.
Wrong.
The culture around it. Is it a cultural thing to keep women in the background? All right, we've got women in other countries like India who are stepping forward and want to be seen and heard.
Mhm.
So I don't think so much that it's race versus culture.
Mhm.
Well,
And
I-
now I believe that when we started here in this country, women support groups, homes where women could escape to with their children, I support that 100%. Money, clothes, items donated to them. Keep the cause. Now, my nonviolence goes only so far. When you come at me like that, and we're supposed to be in a loving relationship, I feel that you violated our love.
absolutely.
Like, and so
Right.
I'm not the one to talk to those women. I am not the one. I am the one to only say you need to get a good education. I'll help you with that, and many of us are willing to help you with that. And you need to learn how to money management skills. You need to learn those things. Women need those skills. You don't just turn it over to somebody else and say, oh, he's going to take care of it for me. You need to take on that responsibility of learning how to manage money so that you can help get yourself out of situations and take a look at your choice and the way you choose your mates. Take a look at it. So, all I can say is we need to help any woman who is being harmed. We need to help them. Not
Absolutely.
just get them out of
Fantastic.
the situation, but to help educate them about the choices they make, about making a decent income. How do you go about doing that? And we know education is at the base of it. What does the society value? A well-educated person. They value that. They're not just going to give you money to live a good life
Mhm.
for no reason, just because you were abused. But if you put forth effort to get yourself to a different plane, a different level, people will come and support you even more.
I
That's
guess
right.
I guess this answer that you given us is the most important answer that we are needing for this moment in the world. Why that? It's so easy to motivate the people through the violence because we have in our human nature the violence inside of us, each other, no matter which color you are. We already have this, and it's so easy to put it out and to spread out as well. And you were saying something that we need to. You said before few minutes ago that we need to know ourselves and we need to learn to control ourselves. You learned with Dr. Martin King about the patients and everything. You gave the whole path we need to follow to get and to achieve what you want, but maybe we are not doing the right way because we are always motivating by the anger. How can we change this?
You manage your anger. What's your trigger? What's your trigger? And you've got to learn. This is one thing that was very important for me. I am not going to give you that power. I am not going to give you that power.
That was the trigger, right?
To
Perfect.
make you angry, I'm not giving it to you. I'll decide if I want to be angry or not. And people would, I've had people call me names, ugly names, and so forth. And you know what? My first response is to start laughing.
Ironically.
That's my first response, is to start laughing. And then I say, now, I have a choice here. Do I want to play a game with this idiotic person and waste time? No. And my laughter is saying, you're not worth it. And I leave the area.
Perfect.
What a class.
Perfect. What a class. Maybe it's a little briefing for the next question, because we understand you are writing a book. Can you share with us what the book is about?
Okay.
Because maybe this is something that is inside of this book. Am I correct?
Let me tell you, people, the thing is, the book is written. It's just something I keep developing. It was a book for my daughter. My daughter died at the age of 8 from a brainstem tumor. And when she had a year, we had a year together, about a year before she died. And we were talking one day, and my daughter's personality is a lot like mine. And she says, and she would say, "Mommy, what are you going to do when I'm gone?" And I'd look at her and go, "Look, I don't want to talk about that right now. I don't want to think about you not being in my life." And she goes, "Well, you need to be thinking about it, because I can't die worrying about you. And so you got to tell me something." These were her words. She had
How old she was?
She was
8.
7 when she was telling me all of this.
Oh.
And I'd go, "Oh, girl." So then she goes, "Well, are you going to get married again? Are you going to have any more kids? You got to go back to school, because you said," and, she's telling me, all these things, and I'm looking at her and I'm going, "Please, I don't want to think about this." And then I told her, I said, "Well, I'll just, I'll tell your story." And she perked up and she said, "You're going to tell my story?" She said, "You're going to write a book about me?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I could." And that's the book. It's written. I wrote that book a long time ago. And all I do now is I just add more stuff. It's just becoming a big, big thing. But it starts out telling her story, because she told me how to start it out. She gave me instructions of who she wanted included. And then she told me how her part was supposed to end. And she says, "And now I'm going, my mom is going to have to finish the rest of the story, because then she died."
It's so impressive. But if we see, she at the age of 7 to 8 did the same what you did in the age of 14 to 15 with your mama. It's the same history is repeating.
Well, you got to remember, my mama was saying I was the one before I got to be a teenager. And I tell
yes,
exactly.
exactly.
When somebody's looking at you and saying, "You're the one," I said, "Turn around and start running." When they say, "Oh, you're the one," I said, "Run."
Well, this is the same history repeating and over and over and over and over. You'll never end. That is awesome.
That's
We need
that's
this.
fun.
We need this kind of strong woman.
That's fantastic. I just love to hear that. And um, Dr. Craig, with all the changes happening in the world, what kind of volunteer work you do enjoy to do most in these days?
Well, I volunteer with AARP.
Okay.
All right. Now, when I came to Oregon, I knew that I used to do a lot of work with nursing. Lots,
Mhm,
lots.
mhm,
And I said, well, this part of my life, I'm going to do something different. I'm
okay.
going to do more community focused education. So in Oregon, and I've been here since December of '09,
Mhm,
I started working with AARP. I was a member of their diversity council.
okay.
Then I became chairwoman of the diversity council.
Mhm,
But I do education about a lot of things: health, how to care for yourself.
mhm,
Would put on we have what's called the Vital Aging Conference,
mhm,
AARP, and I would host it on at the hospital at our Smullin Center. It's a big auditorium, where you can hold classrooms and then
mhm,
have big groups.
mhm.
And we would always give something like uh, brain exercises, how music affects the brain health, all of those. I love doing those kinds of things. I,
Musical therapy.
I beg your pardon?
Musical therapy, because
Music,
we have
yes.
music
If you
therapy.
can take a person who does not respond to anything, just sit and look. But if you can play music from their air, you'll notice something different. Just keep that music going.
Exactly.
Uh, I enjoy that kind of work with AARP because I get to touch on a lot of different subject matters
Mhm.
about people, and not just health, because societal impact affects your health. So it's not just specifically take your vitamins and drink your water. It's also about, like what we talked about with women, learning how to manage money, how to manage the household. Because if the husband dies and you don't know nothing, anybody can come and take advantage of you.
Yes.
And you could lose what you've accumulated over time. So I was the recipient of what's called the Andrus Award. That is the highest award that AARP gives to their volunteers. And I was the recipient in 2019.
Wow. Congratulations. You were awesome to do that.
And I still volunteer. I do a lot of lobbying also.
Wow, that's nice.
Do,
Right.
do you do any volunteers for the young people or?
Oh, yeah. There's a group here. Uh, I've always volunteered with young people. It doesn't matter what color you are. I've helped kids who were going to school afraid and didn't know how to write a paper. So I would work with them and teach them how to write papers. So I work with them. It doesn't matter who it is, the youth. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, next question for you, Dr. Craig, is in what ways did Dr. Martin Luther King influence you?
I think you've heard it throughout. Oh,
Uh-huh.
throughout this session. Oh, that man, he saved my life, really. Because, like I said, if the group of angry teenagers, black, had gone out in Selma, Alabama, marching and singing and talking about you gonna give us our rights, and we didn't know what our rights were, really. They'd have probably killed us all. It never would have gone any further than Alabama, and would have our lives would have been lost in vain. That man came along at the right time. Him and his disciples, to give us guidance, education. And, you can give and give and give, but unless a person is willing and ready to accept, it's all in vain. We were ready, we were open, we learned, we grew. And if you stop and look at all the people who really invested and heard Dr. King, they all grew in life because they took it to heart. He said, when you do a job, do it so good that no one can come behind you and do it better. Yeah.
Perfect.
Wow.
Perfect.
Perfect. Well, Dr. Craig, telling us this, my question is, how do you envision activism for our youth and today's society in your world?
Well, I'm going to tell you this, the youth are doing just fine right now. When they started the Black Lives Movement, I said, okay, let's see how this goes. And it came out during when COVID just hit us smack dab, killing so many people. The Black Lives Movement has made a difference. And this is started by young people. The people of my era, we're dying out. It's like I told my sister, we are now the big mamas and the
Yes.
aunties. We are at that level.
Mhm.
And I've been teaching and handing out and guiding all my life to the youth and asking them to make our world better. I brought it so far. Now it's your turn.
That's
Make,
nice.
make the contributions. Listen, learn. We should have more well-educated young people today than ever before. And you can push the numbers even higher. Don't forget the history of your people. Do not forget. And don't let them sweep it under the rug.
All right. That's perfect. Now, growing up like as a young, like you see one of the most icon in the activism movement in the whole world, it's Martin Luther King. Dr. Craig, what was the most important lesson that you learned from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.?
The
She
most,
said a lot of, but what is
uh,
the most one?
I can't say other than patience because I had to learn that patience and about choices. You know, choices, patience, and then you get to choose your emotions.
I won't forget that word, patient.
Patience. I know, man. With me my whole life. Patience. I'll never forget the day he told me that, and I thought oh, what is this man talking about? Some patience. uh,
Wow. We are doing so well, and we are learning a lot from you. But now I have a question. I think it's like I would like that you give us the best message you can from the bottom of your heart, because we know that we are living a hard moment, unpredictable times with the disease, the racism, all those things. Could you give us what is the message of hope could you give to us?
well, the best message I can give is never let hope die. Never let it die. As my big mama told me, know yourself better than anybody else.
Wow.
Once you know yourself, nobody else can control you. You are your own You create you. You
Wow.
have choice.
Wow.
You have.
It's
Oh,
did.
well,
It's did.
that's it. Well, Dr. Craig, as we always heard, uh, when you are having fun or you're having an enjoyment or having a nice chat, times fly. Time goes so quick. Yeah, unfortunately, we have to go.
That was a master class. That was a master class.
You know, because
Absolutely.
I wish I could, but you have to go.
Well, we know what's
I
coming up about Mother's
yeah,
Day, don't we?
yeah, I know. But before you go, I'd like to ask you to give you to us and our audience that have been here following you and listening to you your final thoughts, please.
Don't forget that yesterday was the International Mama's Day, and you can give this message, the final thoughts, including all of the mama
The
who
whole
are
mamas
trying to
around the world. Yeah.
around the world who's trying to taking care of their kids.
To all the mothers around the world, Dr. Geneva Craig, also a mother, says to you, God bless you for being mom, for never letting your child get too old that they can say, I don't need to listen to you. Mother, continue to give your love, continue to give your advice. And every now and then you may have to do what I do to mine, who's past 40 now, is pop him gently upside the head and say, babe, that is not an ornament up there. Use it. Use it. Yes, that's my job. I love you and I remind you to use what God has given you wisely. And know that mother's love is never, ever at a low ebb. It is one gift that keeps on giving. Love. Mama's love. I love every mother out there.
Wow,
Uh,
fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
before you close, with all of this, you gave me a little share of your voice, and I would like to dedicate one, especially one song wrote by Bono Vox to Mr. Martin Luther King, if you don't mind.
Oh, I do
He's
not mind.
all right. He said, Sleep, sleep tonight, and may your dreams be realized with the thunder's cloud passes rain, raining down, rain on me.
That is,
That's it.
thank
Uh, Dr. Craig, unfortunately, you must go. You know, it was very nice to talk to you, but times fly. But before you go, Dr. Craig, could you give us your final thoughts? We at AES Sport Legacy Channel appreciate the care and the participation of all you viewers. We want to thank you, Dr. Craig, for accepting our invitation and coming to participate with us in the Vivência do Esporte program. We would like to thank our supporters, GBF Consultoria, VMAX Suplemento, the cultural support of Casa 123, IP Afro, and the CBO channel that broadcasts our program to Oceania, Asia, Eastern Europe, part of Africa continent, part of Western Europe, and the Caribbean. I was with the goal to inform, debate, encourage, and entertain. The Vivência do Esporte program wishes everyone an excellent night and a week of full achievement and good reflection on everything that was present here tonight. But don't be sad. Next Monday, we'll be here again with another great guest. Please subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, give that like that is very important to us, and follow us on the social network that are in the video description. Again, good night and see you next Monday.